He ended the season and possibly his career on a high note, throwing 4 touchdowns against the Dolphins and hitting 500 career touchdowns. Obviously, the Jets weren't facing a full-strength Dolphins. JJ, you know that quite well. But the game did give glimpses of what maybe could have been. So is there a part of you, JJ, that wants Aaron Rodgers to return to the Jets next season?
Yeah, 100%, because I look at the quarterback options for them next season. They're not great, Jeane. The free agent market is not great. The draft class is not great. Oh, by the way, the Jets are not picking number 1, number 2, number 3 in the draft. I don't think they'll have a quarterback on the roster who's going to be as good and is going to be able to perform the way Aaron Rodgers did. Now, that all being said, I can read body language. You guys and gals, you're in the locker room every day with the Jets. It sure seems like we're heading to a divorce. It's just the body language, the cryptic messages you're getting from Aaron Rodgers going on McAfee's show every week. This does not seem like a guy who thinks full well he's going to be the Jet quarterback going into next year. I don't know what Woody Johnson is thinking. I don't know what the new GM and the head coach are going to be thinking. We'll see who they end up bringing in. But do I think we'll be watching Aaron Rodgers under center next year in a Jet uniform? I'd be very surprised. Now, Jeane, I don't get to make these decisions. If it were me and you're asking me, hey, I ran the Jets, who do I want my quarterback to be? I'd run it back with Rodgers for another year. But I think he ends up in Pittsburgh or San Francisco.
Okay. Probably not San Francisco, but Pittsburgh is absolutely the one to keep an eye on there, as JJ just said. I think the Kyle Shanahan, that ship sailed. I don't think that's going to happen there with Rodgers going back over there. But it is a fascinating debate to have, guys, because the one thing that was posed to me when I was like, oh, the Jets are going to move on from Rodgers, was how do we replace that production?
Yeah.
Because, Rodgers was flawed. The yards per attempt, like we were just talking about, it was low. He threw for over 300 yards just once. He led the Jets to
look at these numbers right now up on the screen.
Again, you include the fact that it was the extra game, so eliminate 4 of those touchdowns, 1 of those interceptions, and 200-something of those yards if they were playing an almost 17-game season like every other Jets quarterback absent Zach Wilson. But the fact still remains is that, he didn't throw for over 300 yards but once. He only led the Jets to 30-plus points twice. The yards per attempt were the lowest of his career. He's very clearly, at this point in his career, a quarterback that doesn't need to be carried. That's not the case. We're not talking about like Peyton Manning in his final year with the Broncos, but he's more of a game manager where you'll randomly get little bits and pieces of the brilliant quarterback that he used to be, like you saw in the finale against the Dolphins, and the game against the Patriots, and the game against the Bills. Like, you'll see little moments. You're just not going to see it consistently. But it's also everything that comes with Rodgers. So, the production, it's going to be hard to replace. That player, that like you just saw, the almost 4,000 yards passing, the 28 touchdowns, you're not just going to pull one of those out of your you-know-what. Like, that's not going to happen. But it's everything that comes with Aaron that you need to take into consideration. The guy is 41 years old. His body has broken down his last 3 years. He had a thumb issue, remember that, his final year with the Packers, the Achilles injury his first year with the Jets, and now all the injuries that we were talking about a little bit ago this first year with the Jets. You also have the fact he's going to go on McAfee every single Tuesday. That's a major thing, because unlike other players where media relations and PR can control or know what's going to be said, Aaron is his own guy. Aaron does his own thinking. Aaron's not going to be controlled by anyone. If he has something he wants to say, he's going to go out there and say it. That's not going to bode well with everyone. You have a general manager and head coach where Rodgers, throughout the last few years of his career, has butted heads, whether it was with McCarthy, with LaFleur, with Saleh. Ulbrich, no, but there's other factors here in play. And the main one, I don't get the sense, even though Woody Johnson told the New York Post that he's going to leave it up to the general manager and head coach, I don't get the sense, and certainly Rodgers doesn't get this sense, that Woody Johnson really wants him back next year. I think this is something where the organization just prefers a fresh start and to turn the page on what has undeniably been 2 of the most disappointing years in franchise history. Get the new head coach, get the new general manager, figure it out at quarterback, whether it's Tyrod Taylor and someone like Justin Fields or something like that, but just turn this page, go on somewhere else, and let Rodgers go play with Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh.
I want to see this Mike Tomlin and Aaron Rodgers experiment, how that's going to work.
They do like each other. It's like, go, Jeane, you should. I don't think you and Scott look at each other with the googly eyes that they were throwing each other when the Jets played the Steelers. I mean, that was like that. There was some.
I mean,
some
have
love
you
in
seen
the air
Mike
there.
Tomlin?
And
He's just
Jeane,
a
they're
bad
desperate
man.
the Steelers. Listen, Mike Tomlin, despite all of the success he's had as a head coach, He has not won a playoff game in, 7? It's going to be 8 years when Lamar Jackson and the Ravens smoke him on Saturday.
Hey, they did beat the Ravens earlier this year.
They did, and I know they've had success against them in the past. Their offense stinks. Russell Wilson is beyond cooked. They have one playmaker at wide receiver, and they're a win-now team, Jeane. Mike Tomlin, if he's sticking around in Pittsburgh and if he's not going to be, quote-unquote, traded in the offseason, they want to win a playoff game. They're not dismantling that team. They're going to look at their options. I think they're going to have a hard time doing better than Aaron Rodgers.